Hello, this is my final presentation for Grand Canyon University's Chemistry 525 Current Topics in Chemistry course, where I'll be presenting from the perspective as a guest speaker at a physical science seminar. So hopefully you enjoy. Hello, I am Joseph Nolet from the Physical Sciences Department, as you all are well aware. I'll be going over biomaterials and how they have revolutionized the world we live in. In this presentation, I'll do a quick overview of biomaterials and what they are, as well as discussing all the ethical considerations that a biomaterial scientist and in general the field of biomaterials has. And I'll do a quick current topics on biomaterials in health sciences with a case study on personalized cell therapy. Wonderful. In the past, materials for biological uses were developed from what was available, such as the tale of how women's girdles influenced vascular grafts. Recently, a significant amount of research in biomaterials has been on either bio-inspired materials or biomimetic materials. Nature unquestionably excels in the area of material design. As a result, there are now a wide variety of materials, including new ones created expressly for biomedical purposes, those inspired by nature, and those reused from other applications. The conversation has since turned to materials produced specifically for certain biomedical applications. Since all of these approaches have the potential to revolutionize biomedical applications, there's ultimately no one perfect material or approach. Novel, bio-inspired materials, synthetic and biological materials, have their uses, but each of these material families must engage in interactions with the local fauna and flora. We can research these interactions and use them to generate helpful materials with the interface of chemistry being crucial. And now onto what is a biomaterial. Now the simplest definition would be a non-viable material used in a medical device that interacts with living processes. But to get in a little bit more in depth on that, it's any substance, whether natural or synthetic, intended for use in prosthetic, diagnostic, therapeutic, or storage applications that comes into contact with tissue, blood, or biological fluids. It must also be used without endangering the living organism and its constituent parts. And of course, living organisms we'll be focusing on as humans, but seeing as we're dealing with research prospects, animals will also be a part of that consideration as well, which will go a little bit into our ethical part. But the origins of biomaterials start with um, um, some metals such as gold, iron, brass, glass, wood, and even bone. Where gold is used because it's very malleable, it's an inert metal and was commonly used in dentistry, while iron and brass, they're high strength metals and they were used to rejoin fractured femurs and other bones. Glass, since it's a hard, or more specifically, glass in the context of being ceramic, was used to replace eye for cosmetic reasons. Wood is a natural composite, has high strength to weight, and was used for limb prostheses, and bone, just a natural composite. And as you can see in our picture here, a breakdown of each of those into their um, different applicable uses. Current variety, as you might even say, of biomaterials kinds and some of their applications are shown, where we have ceramics, which includes glasses, metals, polymers, and conductor materials, or as it defines here, semiconductor materials. Okay, so not to take too much longer on this aspect, there's a chart that if you would like to look on anything that I don't specifically cover in detail, this is a good introduction here. So just a quick summary of the table. Metals are resilient to heavy impacts, yet they corrode quickly in physiological settings. Additionally, ceramics are biomaterials with good bio capabilities due to their minimal chemical reactivity. However, due to their predetermined physiochemical properties and ease of management, polymers are the most adaptable and variable material. Um, they are the most popular biomaterial in medical biomechanics because of these factors. Some examples, if you are having a hard time reading any of those, some of the examples are heart valves, artificial tissues, dental implants, um, intraocular lenses, um, vascular grafts, and hip replacements are some examples, as there's a few more in there, like ears and going a little more in depth into blood vessels and tendons and ligaments. But yeah, feel free to reflect on this slide if you um, would like to know a little bit more on why you would choose one over any of the others. Now on to the million-dollar question. Why did I choose biomaterials when there's so many other interesting topics to cover in the field of chemistry? And I would say partially is personal choice because I have a connection with the medical field, with family members that work in there, as well, and have also taken advantage of some of the um, medical devices that have been influenced by biomaterials. So effectively, the inability of many diseases and injuries and disorders to be treated with other therapies and procedures has led to the demand of biomaterials, as well as my interest into further investigation. A pacemaker and stent are two great examples, as well as replacing body parts that have lost function, such as a total hip replacement or the heart, correcting structural abnormalities, such as through spinal rods, improving function, and assisting in healing through both structural and pharmaceutical effects with sutures and drug release. While the requirements to be a biomaterial includes bio capability or the ability to not react with any bodily tissue, such as being non-carcinogenic, non-pyrogenic, non-toxic, non-allergenic, capable with blood and non-inflammatory. They also must be resistant to common sterilization methods like autoclaving, dry heat, or radiation. Uh, they also must be simple to manufacture and have particular physical properties such as desired strength, desired elasticity, and durability. Like any research topic, there will be pros and cons along the way. And of course, biomaterials is no different. There are going to be many different challenges and limitations along the way. Starting with some of the challenges, complex tissue architecture, arrangement in vitro replication, a better understanding of extracellular and intercellular modulators of cell function, the development of novel materials, and processing methods that are compatible with biological interfaces, and improved immune acceptance strategies are all the challenges associated with biomaterials. While transplantation, surgical reconstruction, and mechanical devices are the limitations of biomaterials. Starting with transplantation, there is a critical donor shortage. 30,000 livers every year are needed for transplantation, but there are only 3,000 livers to give to these patients. As well as disease transmission is also a consideration because organ transplantation might speed the spread of disease like HIV, hepatitis, and others that are contagious. On the other hand, surgical reconstruction is not always feasible and is a less than ideal alternative due to potential consequences. The technical approach for mechanical devices, our final of this list, would be to design new tissues or systems. But this is constrained by the complexity of the human body and its many functions, the balance between living and non living components, and the materials used, such as tissue based polymers, metals, or even ceramics. Undoubtedly, by now, you've heard the word medical device, either by me today or in the past, going to a hospital or in another course you may have taken. But just to make sure that everyone is on the same page and there are no gaps in knowledge, I'll just go over what is a medical device and go through its classes as well. A medical device is simply a product that is used on patients for medical purposes such as diagnosis, therapy, or surgery. It is classified as a medical device based on how long it is used for, how invasive it is, and how risky it is for the user. And that leads into our different classes. Will be a characteristic of each of those. So starting with class 1 devices. Crutches, bedpans, tongue depressors, and adhesive bandages are all class 1 devices that are minimally invasive and do not come in contact with the user's internal organs by any means. Hearing aids, blood pumps, catheters, contact lenses, and electrodes are examples of class 2 devices that have a higher degree of invasiveness and risk, but are only used for a brief period of time. And finally, class 3 devices, which are far more invasive and carry a significant danger to the user through implantables, including cardiac pacemakers, intrauterine devices, intraocular lenses, heart valves, and orthopedic implants. As previously stated, with all the pros, there will eventually be some complications and drawbacks um, in any research topic. Healthcare needs, in terms of quality and accessibility, are higher than ever before due to the increase in life expectancy of the world's population. New manufacturing methods and techniques have always been a researcher's main concern when it comes to the fabrication of medical devices. The success of the medical device as a whole will be determined by the choice of the appropriate material to be utilized, which is of utmost importance in the development of medical devices. Although the FDA acknowledges that many of the current available biomaterials offer a great deal of potential for use in the creation of medical devices, its qualities and safety must be carefully considered in light of the particular application at hand and the extent of the patient contact. The idea that material that was deemed safe for one intended use in a device might not be safe in a device intended for another is a key one in the safety assessment of medical devices. One of the most important concepts in the safety evaluation of medical devices is the possibility that a material that was pronounced acceptable for one intended use in a device might not be safe in a device designed for another application. The regulatory approval procedure and submission standards govern it just as much as the physical, mechanical, and chemical characteristics of the medical device. On the previous slide, dealt with a little bit of the ethical considerations of biomaterials, but these are the explicit sworn oaths, for all intents and purposes, of a biomaterial scientist or anyone who engages in the study, creation, and clinical use of medical goods utilizing biomaterials. And this constitutes a multidisciplinary and highly educated profession with significant and direct bearing on public health. Um, this entails enormous ethical obligations. Patients who the general public, scientists, engineers, doctors, lawyers, insurers, hospitals, universities, regulators, educators, and more um, are all considered individuals who must swear an oath to the biomaterials ethics, and those who work in the field of biomaterials have a duty to uphold the greatest standards of moral behavior, including honesty, integrity, fairness, equality, because their work is devoted to the preservation of the public's health, safety, and welfare. Furthermore, even if the discipline has endured ethical lapses in the past, the rapidly expanding scope of biomaterial science and the quickening clinical translation of this broad field demand immediate attention to the difficult and complicated ethical quandaries these developments present. Numerous ethical concerns are brought up by this profession, such as the use of animal testing models, the use of patients in product and device testing, and what can be considered possible abuses, such as augmentation and repair done for cosmetic rather than medical purposes. The biomaterials community need to proactively address ethical issues in this field by adding or updating specific codes of ethics, modifying training programs to highlight the significance of ethical research practice, and collaborating with funding agencies and journals to adopt policies prioritizing ethics. This is while acknowledging the inherent tensions between certain ethical norms and the pressures of modern scientific and engineering enterprises. Together, these initiatives can bolster and promote biomaterials as they become more commercialized and have an impact on the healthcare system. Now, here we get to see a real world perspective through a case study on personalized cell therapy. Cell treatments have been investigated for a variety of diseases. Their ability to differentiate and multiply holds promise for use in cell regeneration and repair. They are desirable for dynamic, long-term therapeutic administration because of their capacity to produce proteins in response to molecular signals. Finally, they can coordinate an immune response against the tumor thanks to their capacity for communication with nearby cells. By enhancing cell viability and functionality and localizing therapeutic activity, biomaterials may increase the therapeutic value for all of these applications. Furthermore, in order to meet the therapeutic requirements for specific patients, precision biomaterials might be created with extra capabilities. Using biomaterial techniques to facilitate the clinical translation of therapeutic cells has already demonstrated to be very promising. However, the expense and difficulty of cell collection, expansion, and engineering prior to patent administration may limit therapeutic use. Biomaterial-based cell therapies can face considerable difficulties getting FDA approval because both the materials and the cells must adhere to FDA criteria. With the aid of synthetic biomaterials, many additional cell treatments are anticipated to advance towards clinical translation in the incoming years. According to this study, innovative, tailored cell treatments for the treatment of a variety of ailments will be driven by developments in cell engineering and precision biomaterial design. This presentation, which outlines the long history and current situations of biomaterials, focuses on the ethical challenges and limitations of this science, as well as its implications for the use by the public. With all that being said, biomaterials aims to provide humans with the greatest possible level of well-being. Temporary or permanent implants are those medical devices that have the highest expression and gain the most from the development of biomaterials. There is still significant work to be done in the creation of biomaterials despite their great evolution, mostly to improve their biocompatibility and make the medical device in which they are used the safest for the patients. Now this brings us to the end of my presentation for today. I hope all of you learned something new, or at the very least feel more comfortable with biomaterials and what they are. So I'll have to say thank you for your time and attention. I will now take any questions while the next presenter sets up, and I have been Joseph Nolet, presenting for Grand Canyon University's course on current topics in chemistry. Chemistry 525. Goodbye.